Okay, so we have our IK controllers. The next thing I want to do, so I can move these around and they move in an IK way. So I have that on the legs and I have that on the spine. Those are fine for those types of movements. For the arms and the remainder, I pretty much want to use FK. And the FK just means forward, kinematics, and that's just so that, when I rotate the arm, right, it usually swings like this. You don't, you can also use IK on them, but I find that I like to use FK and just to switch it up so you can see how to do other things. We're going to do IK. Now, we could just animate directly onto the joints, but you don't want to do that because for the purposes of the animators, you don't want them actually interacting with the rig at all because they could potentially break it. This way, they only interact with the controllers, and they can only do what the controllers tell them to do. They don't accidentally break the rig or anything weird like that. Um, the other thing that you want to do is you want to make it more easy for them to interact with, so instead more user friendly. So what we're going to do is we're going to create just controllers, kind of like what we did for the IK, but just for FK. So to do that, I'm going to go create NURBS primitives circle, and I'm just going to go ahead and scale this. Hit R for scale, and I'm going to scale it up to about 10. I'm actually just going to go here and type 10, just to get a general kind of size that's somewhat correct. Then while I have it, I'm just going to do modify freeze transformations. And then it also has this history I want to get rid of. So I'm going to do edit, not delete all by type, delete by type, history. Let's go ahead and rename this. I'm just going to call it FK underscore controller underscore CRV. All right. Now with that still selected, I'm going to hit Control G, like good game, and rename this one FK underscore controller underscore GRP. Okay. Yay. So basically we have the controller, and then above it we have it's parented to an empty group. Okay. So if I move that group, you'll see it move wherever. If you don't have the outliner here, it's just Windows outliner. And then I just snapped it over there. All right. So you can also select it by clicking on the curve. So you have the curve selected, but if I hit the up arrow after, it'll move up the hierarchy. And now I have the group selected. So when you select the group, I'm going to turn off the geo so it's easier to snap. I hit W for the move tool. I'm going to hold V and just drag it up to the shoulder so that it point snaps to it. I'm going to turn geo back on so I can make sure that it's not penetrating the arm. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to rotate it so that it sort of makes sense with the arm. We'll say like that. I want to basically make it the same direction as the joints. So see how like that's going with it now? That's what I'm looking for. I'm also going to scale it just a little bit bigger, and that should be a little bit better. And what you're going to notice, I have all these dirty values, which is fine because if I grab the controller curve, you'll see they still are good. So that looks correct. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to use this controller and just keep duplicating it and putting it in for the remaining items. So grab the group. Again, you can click on it here, hit up, or you can select it over here. I'm going to hit Control D to duplicate. And then I'm going to do W for move, turn the geometry off, and I'm going to hold V for point snap, and point snap it there. And that looks fine. Let's put geometry on, and I'm just going to go ahead and scale it so it's a little bit smaller, and maybe rotate it a little bit so it's more in line with my model. So you can see it's got to go this way. So just so that it looks better, that's fine. Then we're just going to duplicate it again. I'm going to turn geometry off. I'm going to hit Control D and then W for move. Hold V for point snap it to that. Turn the geometry back on. And then I'm just going to go ahead and scale this smaller. All right. And that looks fine for one arm. Now we have to do a couple of other things real quick here. So I'm going to select this. I'm going to hit the up arrow so I get the group. And I'm going to Control D, W. Move this over. I'm going to hold V for point snap and then point snap the duplicate here. Put the geometry on. I need to make a clavicle controller. So I'm just going to hold E or hit E for rotate. And I'm just going to rotate it up like this. And I'm actually going to change. See, that might affect the way that it rotates. We'll just scale this up a little bit. There we go. We'll go like that. See, I don't like the way that is. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go like this. I'm going to I still have the group selected. I'm going to make it more go, because I want it to go in the same orientation as the shoulder here. So I'm going to orient like that. And then what I want to do is actually just change the shape. So I'm going to expand and go to the group. You can also click on it, and if you hit the down arrow, you'll move down to the shape node, which is not what we want. We actually want the controller group. So you have to go over here. Then what we're going to do is I'm just going to take this, and I'm going to scale the curve, not the group. Scale the curve. And pull this out like this so that it juts out, and it's a little bit easier. Now you're going to see it's going to have these bad values, so afterwards I'll just do modify freeze transformations, and then that will be set that way. And now you can see that looks pretty good, right? Okay. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to take all of these here, all of the ARM controllers, okay? And then we're going to, so I select them all. So make sure you grab the groups in the outliner. I'm going to hit Control G to make a group. And we'll just call this like left ARM controller underscore GRP, okay? And you'll see it's right down here. That's fine. What I'm going to do is duplicate this. Control D. Let's change the name to right arm. Right arm. And then we are going to scale it on X minus 1. And that will flip it to the other side. All right. And so now we have these, and these should be fine. And we have those controllers, and these can control that side, and that can control that side. So now we have those. They aren't doing anything. They aren't hooked up yet. We're just making the controllers. Let's go ahead and also make it for the neck and head. So I'm just going to go ahead, and it doesn't really matter. I'm going to grab one of these. So I'm going to click on this arm. I'll hit the up arrow. I'm going to Control D to duplicate. I'm going to turn the geometry off so I can see what I'm doing. W for move. Hold V for point snap. I'm going to snap it up there. Now you can see it's all crooked. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take these rotations and zero them out. So then it becomes, oh, sorry, not that one. That was translates. Leave those alone. I meant the rotation. Zero that out. And now it's straight again. And then I'm going to put geometry back on. And I'm just going to make sure that it's going in the same direction as head. So I'm just going to rotate it this way. And it's a little larger than it needs to be. So I'm going to hit R for scale and scale it down a little bit. And scale it back up a little. Okay. We'll call that good. And the last thing I need to do is that if you look, it's still in this left arm because we duplicated it. So with it selected, the group, I'm going to hit Shift P. That will unparent it. So now I'm going to collapse this. See, I can see all the ones in it. Now it's in its own thing. Okay. Now with that group still selected, we're going to do the head joint. So I'm just going to go ahead and hit Control D, turn the geometry off, W and V, point snap up. All right. Let's put the geometry back on. And I'm going to go ahead and scale this down a little bit like that. And that will be our head controller. Okay. And if we look, I think we have all of our controllers. So we don't have anything for hands yet. We'll figure that out later. But now we at least have all of the controllers on each other here. So in the next video, what we'll do is we'll actually hook these up so that they affect the joints.